Hey there, I'm Georgina and I'm a recruiter with Amazon. I'm here today to really help you think about your CV, give you some tips and give you some good advice on what might get you noticed here at Amazon, but also what might get your CV noticed anywhere else that you might want to apply. So here at Amazon, we get thousands of CVs on a monthly basis, and a question I always get asked is, how long should my CV be? My advice? No more than 2 pages. More than 2 pages, it just gets a little wordy. Now, if you're a tenured individual and you've got a lot of experience, feel free to do a little more than 2 pages, but also keep in mind, more than 2 pages may be something that turns the reader off. Pictures on your CV? I don't think so. Jeez, that's quite violent. Now, when it comes to CV layouts, my recommendation is to keep it simple. You may deal with an applicant tracking system. Now, that's the place that your CV goes when you do apply to a job. You may be dealing with a system that doesn't actually read different formats. So my best piece of advice would be to keep it as a Word doc or a PDF, but don't add too many pictures. Don't add too many colours. I really recommend bullet points. Font size? I recommend maybe 11 or 12. I'm looking for Arial, Times Roman, something that's really easy to read. I don't need papyrus. Your CV should really reflect all of those amazing things that you've been able to accomplish. Most people, they just put the day-to-day work, but I really want to see what kind of processes you've created, how many efficiencies that you've created in your role, what kind of money have you saved for yourself, your team, or your company. Now, when it comes down to it, we're really not the greatest self-marketers. That might be why writing your CV is really difficult. So move that aside for just a moment. Think about the things you really want to say to somebody, but do it in more of a humble brag. What I tell you is the best way to stand out is to really just be your authentic self. Put you into your CV. One thing that I would tell you is really make sure you get a lot of eyes on your CV before you actually submit it to a job. A surefire way to make me stop reading your CV and move on to the next one is if you've misspelled a word. Use spell check. Have your friends review it. Have your family review it. If you know business contacts who can give you a professional view, ask them to review it. Just be sure it's somebody that has good experience, somebody that you've maybe checked their references. There's also Google and YouTube videos that you can use as well. So one thing that I'd tell you is to lose the skills section. You lose a lot of CV space by creating those columns of skills at the top, when what you could really do is incorporate those skills into the body of each of your jobs. A summary sometimes, if it's done really well, it can be really impactful. What I'd recommend is keeping it short, sweet and concise. That way your reader can read it, but then they're drawn into the rest of your experience so that they can learn more and more about you. Add links, for instance, to the companies that you've worked for or you do work for. That's extremely helpful for a recruiter. They want to be able to access information extremely easily and quickly to make a determination on whether or not you might be a good candidate for the job. You may want to think about your LinkedIn page. Add a link on your CV right at the top. That way someone can click on it and go to your profile very quickly. Recruiters do snoop, and we look at LinkedIn profiles all the time. You've got so much more room there to actually put tons of great information and content. So make sure to use that and make sure it mirrors your CV. I wouldn't necessarily link all of your social media profiles to your CV. I'd make sure that you just put the information there that is really relevant for the role that you were actually applying for. Actionable words can be really important. Build, create, develop. Now those are things that definitely get somebody's attention. However, be sure to back those up. Actually show something that you have created, something that you've built or developed. Now use lots of I rather than we. We want to see the personal impact that you actually had in a role. Along with that, make sure that the data is in there. We love data. percentage figures that you've billed, money saved, efficiencies created, all kinds of things like that are gold when it comes to a CV. Now there's some questions that I get as well around things like what kind of information is super relevant that I need to share. Some things that I would tell you is if you've been in your career for 20 years, nobody needs to know about your internship. Likewise, I don't need to hear about your favourite TV show, your favourite colour, or what you had for dinner last night.
What did you have for dinner last night?
Chicken pizzas, oh lovely. Always remember, include date ranges on your positions. It really helps create a nice timeline of your experience so that your reader can understand more about the job that you're in, when and what that job was about. What if you took a year off? What if you have some gaps in your CV? Now those are important questions as well. Don't be afraid to actually highlight those too. You want to show exactly what you've been doing in that time off. If you took time off to look after your family, say it. If you took time off to go travel the world, say that too. Say something that you learned. Talk about experiences that you had and how those changed and shaped you as an individual and an applicant for this job. One other thing I'd say is that outside interests, swimming, hiking, biking, whatever it may be, I think that's actually pretty cool. I like getting to know you as an applicant and what you might bring to the table in a lot of different ways. What's your email address? We've all had those questionable ones when we were younger. Leave that nostalgia in the past. If you're applying for a job, you want to ensure that the reader knows that you're serious and professional. Keep it simple. Initials, surname, for example, with maybe a numeral, definitely works better. Also, think about your CV. Like, what do you actually name it on your computer? Is that going to be something weird when it shows up in the applicant tracking system? You definitely want to think about that. Princess Mara is not going to work. My suggestion, your CV, _name and the year. One other thing that I'd recommend doing is to network. Create opportunities for yourself. Reach out to those hiring managers, reach out to those recruiters on LinkedIn, not off YouTube. Hi. Now there's appropriate ways to reach out to the hiring manager or a recruiter. And there's also inappropriate ways to do it. Do your homework. Do your research. Make sure the individual is someone you really want to touch base with. You've got one shot at getting it right. As far as references go, I'd leave them off your CV. Provide them when they're asked for. You may just be getting started in your career, you've just graduated from university, you don't have a ton of experience. What do you put on your CV? Because you don't have tons of work experience at this point, think about putting your educational experience at the very top of your CV. Don't be afraid to put non-paid work experience or internships. Show all the things that you've done during the summer whilst you're a student. Information about the retail store you worked in, the coffee shop you had an opportunity to work in over the summer. It really goes to show that you've taken the initiative whilst a student to get some experience and to actually get into the workforce. Your school grades on your CV, give or take. Now, it could be super important for a hiring manager. It might not be as important to a recruiter, so I'll leave that up to you. You do want to tailor your CV for the job that you want. When I say that, you don't necessarily want to make it super specific to the role that you're applying for. Make sure that you're actually creating a CV where it's broadly usable for lots of different opportunities. These tips aren't just applicable for Amazon. There's a lot of great information here that you can take to lots of other opportunities and lots of other companies. I look forward to reading your CV very soon, hopefully. You got this. Thank you so much for watching. Go to amazon.jobs to find out all of our job opportunities. Feels so silly.